Performance reviews are critical moments in the year that every manager needs to get right. So in this video, I'm going to dive deep into the performance review process and make sure that you have everything you need in order to conduct yours with confidence and that they're meetings that your team truly value. For many managers, performance reviews or appraisals just fills them with dread and can just be seen really as a big administrative headache. And we shouldn't really be surprised by that, because a recent survey by CMI, the Chartered Management Institute here in the UK, surveyed and found out that 82% of managers had no formal training. And running appraisals and having those conversations can be really tricky, can be hard work for managers. And if you have not been trained in how to do them, it can be quite unnerving. But fear not, I am here to help. And if you stay to the end, I will be sharing some extra resources to help you. So without further ado, grab a pen and paper and let's jump right in. In this video, I'm going to share 4 points with you. The first is the performance management process and how the performance review fits into it. And then the next 3 are all about conducting a brilliant performance management meeting. The preparation, the actual meeting and discussion itself, and then finally the follow-up. Let's jump into the first point, the purpose of a performance review. The performance review is part of a process. It is a structured evaluation process where an employee's job performance and accomplishments are assessed, and feedback is provided to guide both the future development for the individual and the goal setting for the coming year. At an organisation level, it provides a snapshot of where all the people are at that given point in time. It's an opportunity to make sure that the organisation's objectives and people's objectives are aligned, but also it's about creating an environment of growth for the people within the organisation, which ultimately will lead to both the organisation and the individual's success. But what's important to note is that the performance review is part of a process that takes part over a year. The performance review is at the end of this process, at the end of the year. The start of the process is that planning step of setting objectives and setting each individual's development plan for the year. And therefore the performance review at the end assesses performance from that planning stage. And most organisations use a criteria assessment to help everybody in the organisation assess their teams fairly. The criteria is normally a 5-step criteria. For example, outstanding, exceeds expectations, meets expectations, needs improvement, and unacceptable. So that's the beginning of the process and the end of the process. A vital role of a manager is in this bit in the middle, which is as you do your work, you monitor and you develop your team. This is the routine management responsibility of checking on progress as you go, on giving feedback to improve performance, on supporting and coaching your team in order that they develop and achieve their personal development goals, and confronting underperformance should it arise. And you need to think of your role in the middle as being guide, unblocker, and supporter. That's what you're doing as this process progresses. And when do you do it? You do it in your one-to-ones. My one observation of when people say to me in workshops, I find appraisals difficult, often the reason is the monitor and the development stage is weak, inconsistent one-to-ones, avoiding feedback. And then we get to the end of the year where you have to review. And if you have not had these conversations, you're already setting yourself up for what could be a very difficult conversation. But if you have had those regular conversations, what an appraisal or a performance review should be is a no surprise zone. There should be nothing in an appraisal that you have not talked about during the year. And the performance review becomes this moment to stand back and reflect on the progress and dig down and understand what has gone well and what has not gone so well, and what that individual needs to focus on in the coming year in order to be better at their job and achieve their own personal career growth aspirations. If you're watching this video and you're thinking, I have not done that consistently, and actually there are quite a lot of gaps in my knowledge, there are 2 actions that you need to take. The first is you need to set yourself up to have a stronger middle, those regular one-to-ones where you monitor progress and help develop your team. And the second point is you need to spend more time focusing on the 3 steps I'm now going to share to make sure that each performance review that you have is at its best. The next 3 steps all look at the actual performance review itself, starting with preparation. When it comes to the preparation stage, there are 2 people who are preparing, you and your team member. And as the manager, you need to set out your expectations so that it is clear how this meeting is going to work, so that the person is aware and they have given sufficient thought to their own performance. The more that happens, the more high quality this conversation is going to be. The best way of doing that is to share some questions that you want them to think about. Ultimately, you're asking them what went well and what didn't go so well. I'm going to share these questions from the manager's point of view, but in the extra resources, I have shared the employee view questions. They're the same, just articulated in a slightly different way. Make sure you have 2 things to hand. One, the objectives and the metrics, the results, any data that you need. And the second thing is have to hand the criteria of your organization, have these in front of you as you answer these questions. Okay, let's jump into the questions. The first is, what were the employees' achievements and successes? This is where you look at things that have gone well. What are the great results that you see your team members have achieved during the appraisal period? Then I want you to think about what are the challenges or obstacles that this person has encountered in the year. This is a moment to recognize some of the obstacles or hurdles that the person has encountered and how they have managed them, what has happened as a result. The third question to ask is, how would you assess their contribution as a team member and with regard to collaboration over the appraisal period? Work flows between people. And importantly, when you're looking at doing a performance review, you've got to think about both what a person does and how the person did it. And a big part of that you're looking for are people who are great team members, who recognize the interdependency of work and support good teamwork. The fourth question to ask yourself is, what feedback have you shared over the year and how have they responded to it? When you have your regular one-to-ones, you should take some meeting notes, and I would always capture what feedback you have given, because then this task becomes relatively easy. Now, on the feedback, you're looking for 2 things. The most significant feedback, not every single piece of feedback. What are the big feedback lessons that you have shared? And the second thing is, where has feedback been repeated, where maybe a person has not responded to that feedback and continued doing what they were doing originally. So in part, you're assessing the person's attitude to feedback and willingness to try new things and do things in a different way. The next question is, what progress did the person make towards their own personal development goals? What was their personal development plan? What can you see? What courses did they go on? What coaching have they had? And what has been the results of that? Can you see evidence of the person's personal development? Then I want you to think about what are their career aspirations and their development goals going forward. If you haven't had this discussion, the performance review is a great time to make sure that you do have a question about what their expectations are. But I would really encourage you to have regular discussions, at least twice in the year, about what their career aspirations are and their own personal goals. The next question to ask is, how well did that person meet the performance expectations you set them. This is where you're really going to think about the criteria and where you're going to assess them within those criteria. But if you think through all those aspects first, it helps you start to get a much clearer picture. As you're looking to answer these questions, make sure that you're being specific and make sure that you're being honest. You're looking for evidence, not just a kind of instinct or a point of view. You are looking for the specific evidence that supports the assessment that you have. Make sure that you schedule good time to do this. Don't wing it. Give yourself time to think and be ready for each of these conversations that are coming up. I would share this question set with your team member, and I would do that at least 1 week before the performance review. So you're also giving them adequate time to think through their own point of view. Both of you will arrive so much more prepared. The third step is the actual meeting itself. How do you conduct the meeting? I would give 60 minutes for each meeting with each direct report. I think that's a good amount of time to have a high quality conversation. And what I've done is put together an agenda that guides where the conversation should go to make sure that you have an aligned view at the end of the meeting. Let's quickly run through the agenda. Introduction and purpose of the meeting, 5 minutes. Achievements and successes, 10 minutes. Current performance, 5 minutes. Areas for improvement, 10 minutes. Career aspirations and development, 10 minutes. Summary, 5 minutes. And then agreed actions, 5 minutes. Remember that this is a two-way meeting. And the one tip I would give you is that when you're in the meat of the meeting, always invite your team member to go first by asking questions about what is their point of view. There are enormous benefits for you as a manager in doing this. The first is that it focuses on their view, and you will make sure that you understand each individual's point of view, which is really important, and it will make them feel heard. The second thing is you are going to know very, very quickly whether you are aligned and agree or not. And what that gives you is vital thinking time. Let's walk through the agenda so you get a feeling for what it might sound like. So you start with the introduction. It's an opportunity for pleasantries, but also just to ease into the meeting. The one thing you want to have clear between you is that the outcome of the meeting is an agreed performance review, that you have come to an aligned position by the end. Then move on to ask them about their achievements. This is all the positive stuff. It's a time to step back and celebrate the hard work that this individual has put in during the year. It has another benefit by starting with the positives. It eases both of you into the conversation and builds trust between you, which sets up the rest of the conversation well. The next agenda point is the current performance. The current performance is looking back over the year and assessing more in the round what's gone well and what has not gone so well. And you're pulling in information there from what they did, how they did it, their participation in the team, and their personal development. At the end of that, you should be able to summarize their view and then share your own. So where do you completely agree, or where potentially do you see a difference, that's something they may not have considered? Once you've had this broad conversation, it naturally comes to the point where you start to look forward into the coming year. And that would indicate the areas for improvement. And areas of improvement may be what or how they are working, but often a lot of the areas for improvement are the individual's personal development. They just haven't learned how to do something as well as they wanted yet. You're looking all the time for actions that will be on that individual's personal development plan going forward into the coming year. Once you've covered the areas for improvement, you're normally at quite a natural point to ask about their career aspirations and their own personal development. Here, ask where would they want to be at the end of the coming year, so that you start to get some tangible goals. What is the training they need? What is the coaching they might need from you? What's the mentoring they need maybe from others, or the shadowing, or the project experience. If you have that discussion, you should come away with a number of tangible actions, some for them, some for you, that will help them achieve their personal development goals in the coming year. You're coming towards the end of the meeting. This step is very important, the summary. It's where you take back the control and summarize what has been said in the round of the whole meeting. This should translate onto what will be on the paperwork of the performance review documentation. It's important that you explain this clearly and include the rating if you haven't already, what rating you'll be assessing this person at and why. Finally, that moves you on to the actions that you have agreed in the meeting that will support the individual as they go forward. All the actions that have been agreed, you need to summarize and confirm, which brings us to the final step of the performance review process, which is follow-up. There are two aspects to the follow-up. The first is the admin. Make sure you get the documentation filled in as soon as possible. You don't want to forget it, and it will be much quicker if you do it while it's fresh in your mind. So make sure that's scheduled in your diary as well. Make sure you share it with your direct reports and get it into the appropriate performance management system within your organization, and then save it somewhere accessible. Don't let this document be a one and done thing. You want to be able to refer to it. The second thing is the actions that come from that performance review. If you've said you're going to organize to get them on a training course, get them on the training course. If you've said you're going to coach them on a particular topic, make sure you plan in when that's going to happen and get the time in. These are massive trust builders to the process, so make sure you do what you have committed to do. If they have said there is something that they are going to work on, take note of it so that you access it and refer to it into a one-to-one so that you don't forget to follow up with the individual. So there you go. We've talked about the process and how it fits into an annual process and is not just an ad hoc individual activity. We have covered the 3 steps of a successful performance review: preparation, the meeting itself, and the follow-up. In order to help you further have successful performance reviews with your team, I've put together a number of resources. There is a performance review toolkit, which covers the questions that I shared earlier on as part of your preparation, both for you and also for your team members. And I have a couple of other videos and playlists that I think can help you. The first is, if you are one of those people who recognize the middle part of the performance management process is not as strong as you would like it to be, check out this playlist on one-to-ones. Implementing regular one-to-ones and having the right discussion at the right time will make an enormous difference to the quality of your management of your team, and ultimately, as a result, will make your performance reviews easier to do. So check out that playlist here. If you've got any questions at all, please put them in the comments below. I will be round to answer them. And look out for the video that I'm going to do after this one, which is all about the tricky questions that I've been asked on performance reviews. I'll be answering them for you. If you found this video useful, please share it with a colleague who may be in a similar situation to you and finding the whole performance review process a little overwhelming. But also, if you could like, subscribe and ring the bell, you'll get notified of each video that I release, and I would be very grateful because it helps other managers like you find my channel. Okay, until next time, take care. Bye.